Part 54. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 531. Chapter 531. Why is he always the one who gets hurt? If he has to keep his promise to her, it will be difficult for him in the future. He can promise her anything, but he can't do it without touching her. Okay, please leave me alone. Xiao Mian knew that he was busy with work and had many things to do, so she said to him very sensibly, "Go and do your work quickly, there is no need to press my button anymore." She held down Mo Yesi's hand that was still massaging her thigh. After pressing it for a while, the uncomfortable feeling in his body had actually eased a lot. At this moment, there was a knock on the door, and Wei Zheng's voice sounded at the same time, "Mr. Mo. Come in." Mo Yesi combed Xiao Mianmian's long black soft hair with his fingers, held her little hand behind his back with his other hand, and gently squeezed her tender palm. When Wei Zheng opened the door and walked into the office, what he saw was the scene of dog abuse. His family has always given priority to work. Once he gets to work, he devotes himself wholeheartedly to official matters. Mr. Mo, who would never desert during work, does not sit at his desk and concentrate on official matters as he thought. Instead, he held the young lady in a sticky posture and sat on the sofa. The moment Wei Zheng just walked into the office, he saw his Mr. Mo lowering his head and kissing the young lady. The young lady was probably shy, so she blushed and pushed him. Mr. Mo then grabbed the young lady's little hand and kissed the back of her hand again. Wei Zheng. Why is he always the one who gets hurt? Can't they care about him as a single person and consider how he will feel at this moment? Xiao Mian felt embarrassed to be so petty in front of Wei Zheng. So she wanted to push Mo Yesi away. But the man did not allow her to leave. He held her waist tightly with his arms, confining her in his arms. "What's the matter?" Mo Yesi held the warm-scented nephrite in his arms and looked at Wei Zheng with evil eyes. It seemed to be telling him, if it wasn't something particularly important, he would be dead. Contacting his gaze, Wei Zheng trembled and said hurriedly, "Mr. Mo, Mr. Zhang from Shenzhou is here and waiting for you in the living room." "Mr. Zhang," Mo Yesi raised his eyebrows and nodded, "Okay, I understand. Let me wait for you first, and I'll be there right away." "Yes." After Wei Zheng finished speaking, he immediately turned around and strode out of the office. After all, the dog's life is at stake. Mo Yesi looked down at the girl in his arms and said gently, "Baby, I have to leave for a while. When I come back, we will go out to eat, okay?" "Well, go ahead." Xiao Mian nodded and responded obediently. She didn't dare to delay his work. After all, a man like Mo Yesi's time was calculated in terms of money, and she couldn't afford to delay him. Her cute and well-behaved appearance made Mo Yesi very fond of her. Tenderness surged in his chest, and he couldn't help but pinch her chin and kiss her. By the time he left the office, it was 10 minutes later. The man left with a satisfied look on his face. On the sofa, Xiao Mianmian's eyes were blurred, her lips were red and swollen, and she was breathless from his kiss. Asterisk. The lunch was scheduled at a place with a nice environment, it looked very atmospheric, and it was very suitable for a date. After dinner, because Xiao Mian had to go to school to ask for leave, Mo Yesi asked Uncle Li to take her to school first. As Xiao Mian was approaching school, she suddenly remembered something when she saw a pharmacy on the opposite road. She asked Uncle Li to pull over. Mo Yesi frowned slightly, looked out the car window, and asked doubtfully, "Why are you parking here? I haven't arrived at your school yet." End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 532. Chapter 532. Chapter 532. I don't want to. Well, I'm going to the drugstore to buy something. While Xiao Mian was eating, She always felt as if she had forgotten something. When I saw that pharmacy just now, I suddenly thought of it. She has no idea of becoming a mother now. Getting married so early has disrupted part of her life plan. If she gets pregnant again early, she will collapse. At her age, she is still a half-grown child mentally. How can you want to have children when you haven't grown up yet? Hearing that she was going to the pharmacy, Moyesi's face immediately became nervous. What's wrong with you? No, Chiao Mian blushed and shook her head. She didn't hide it from him and said it directly, I'm going to the pharmacy to buy medicine. The expression on Moyesi's face froze for a moment. But soon, it returned to normal. Baby, I'm sorry. With remorse in his eyes, he took her in his arms, lowered his head and kissed her gently on the forehead. The moment he heard Chiao Mian say that he was going to buy medicine, it was undeniable that he felt uncomfortable in his heart. But when he saw her delicate little face that looked young and pre-adult, he quickly understood her and felt remorseful for himself. A person like him will consider all aspects when doing anything and will never make such a stupid mistake. Unless he did it on purpose. He knew that Chiao Mian was still young and not mentally mature enough, so she was not suitable to be a mother at this time. However, he selfishly wondered if she could stay by his side safely if she had a child. He doesn't have to worry about her leaving. She is still so young and her temperament has not yet been settled. She is still a very playful age, and she still has beautiful fantasies and expectations about love. Although they were married, she did not fall in love with him. Her feelings for him have not yet reached the point where she has no choice but to be with him. What's more, he is 6 years older than her. If there is a generation gap at the age of 3, then there is already a generation gap between her and him. Girls of her age tend to like boys of the same age as her. At about the same age, we can have more topics in common. There is no generation gap. Moyesi sometimes wonders whether Chiao Mian will dislike his old age. Do you feel there is a generation gap with him? He was worried that she would dislike him for being old. It would be okay if he was only a year or two older than her, but he is a full 6 years older. This age is naturally still very young for a man. With his condition, even if he is 30 or 40 years old, there will be no shortage of young women to join him. Only, as confident as he is, he will always worry about gains and losses in front of the woman he likes. But if you think about it from her perspective, it would be unfair to her to get pregnant. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 533. Chapter 533. He wants to use his children to keep Chiao Mian. Moyesi blamed himself. Emergency contraceptive pills are bad for your health. It was my negligence that caused the baby to suffer. Moyesi, are you not angry? Chiao Mian did not ignore the frozen expression on his face at that moment. He looked like he was unhappy. Moyesi shook his head. Baby, I'm not angry with you, I'm angry with myself. I should have considered these things a long time ago. Actually, it doesn't matter if you take it once in a while. Seeing that he wasn't angry, Chiao Mian breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, taking it regularly will have a greater impact on the body. If you don't want me to take this medicine anymore, then you have to take good contraceptive measures. Otherwise, don't even think about touching me again. Chiao Mian actually had doubts about whether Moyesi did it on purpose. If we say the 2 times in the office were accidents. That time at home in the morning. He wasn't prepared either. If this kind of negligence were done by someone else, she believed that she really forgot about it. Can be replaced by Moyesi. Chiao Mian was afraid that he would do this again in the future, so she spoke harshly. She is only 19 years old. She hasn't graduated from college yet, she hasn't started a good career yet, and she doesn't want to be a mother at this age. Moyesi knew he was in the wrong and had a very good attitude in admitting his mistake. He immediately nodded and said, "Okay, I promise, this kind of negligence will not happen again. If I'm not ready in the future, you can reject me." Moyesi also knows that taking emergency contraceptive pills once will not cause any harm. But the medicine is 3 parts poisonous. No matter what, it will have some impact on her body. "I will definitely reject you," Jiao Mian said firmly. "Moyesi, I have no plans to have a baby at the moment. If you want a baby, at least wait until I make some achievements in something I like. Will we meet again later? You're not in a hurry to have a baby right away, right?" Moyesi raised his deep eyes and looked at her. "Then when do you plan to have a child? 1 year from now, 2 years from now, or 3 years from now?" In fact, Moyesi is not in a hurry to have children. He himself is not a man who likes children very much. Even, a little bit annoying. In his eyes, children are a very troublesome thing. He doesn't think raising a child can bring him much fun. On the contrary, he only thinks it is troublesome. He and Xiao Mian haven't had enough of the world of 2 people yet. Who would want a little brat to influence them? The reason why he wanted a child was just because he wanted to use the child to keep Xiao Mian. He felt that if they had a baby, her heart would stabilize and she would be able to stay by his side with peace of mind. Xiao Mian frowned and thought for a while before replying to him, "I don't know. Anyway, I have no plans to have a baby in the past 2 years. Moyesi, I really don't want to have a baby too early. Anyway, I promise you, I'll give you a baby before you're 30, okay? Besides, pregnancy and childbirth are very hard and painful, and I'm very scared. Can you give me some time to get ready?" The girl asked him in a soft voice. Her eyes were delicate, and she pulled one of his arms with her little hand and shook it gently. She's acting coquettishly with him. Moyesi's eyes suddenly turned dark, his heart was beating wildly, and he wanted to catch her and kiss her hard at this moment. She didn't even know how attractive she looked. Don't say that he promised her not to have children for the time being. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 534. Chapter 534. He didn't force me. If she said she wanted his life, he would give it to her without hesitation. He even wanted to say that since she was so scared, they should not have children. He couldn't bear to let her be frightened. I can't bear to let her be in pain. He doesn't value Yan Yan's own heirs that much. If she really doesn't want to have children, it doesn't matter to him. They can adopt a child. Or you can get a child from a branch of the Mo family. In short, there are many ways for him to have a child, and she does not necessarily have to give birth to him herself. However, no matter how much he dislikes children, he is still willing to have children with her. Okay, he looked at her steadily, his eyes were soft, and he touched her head lovingly, and his voice was also very soft. "If you don't want to give birth, then don't give birth." Xiao Mian wanted to say that it wasn't that she didn't want to give birth. She just didn't want to give birth so early. Asterisk. When going to the drugstore to buy medicine, Moyesi insisted on accompanying Xiao Mian. The two walked into the store, and the clerk came over and asked them what medicine they were buying. When he heard Xiao Mian say that he wanted to buy a box of emergency contraceptive pills, the clerk's expression changed. When he looked at Moyesi again, his eyes were a little more profound. The shop assistants here are all middle-aged women in their 40s or 50s. Unlike those little girls, their eyes went straight when they saw Moyesi. Although the middle-aged aunt also thinks that the young man who just walked in is quite handsome, she just looks like an elder appreciating a junior, and she won't be a nymphomaniac. "Little girl, You want emergency contraceptive pills, do you want to take them yourself? The clerk looked at Moyesi deeply, her eyes a little more wary, and when her eyes fell on Chiao Mianmian's face, she felt an inexplicable anger. Chiao Mianmian is still young. This is the first time I bought something like this, and the clerk looked at me with an incomprehensible look. My face couldn't help but get hot, and I pursed my lips and whispered, "Yeah." The clerk's expression changed again. She suddenly stretched out her hand, took Chiao Mianmian's hand and said, "We have several kinds of emergency contraceptive pills. Come with me and have a look. I'll tell you which one is the most effective." With that said, he took Chiao Mianmian away. Moyesi watched the clerk pull Chiao Mianmian into a corner, his deep eyes narrowed and his brows furrowed slightly. I always felt that the clerk looked at him a little strangely just now. After one shelf, the middle-aged aunt, who looked kind and amiable, said angrily in a suppressed voice, "Little girl, tell me, were you forced by that young man outside? Don't be afraid, tell the aunt everything that happened, and the aunt will help you." Of Chiao Mianmian. She looked confused, but she answered honestly, He didn't force me." "Didn't I force you?" The aunt thought of the troubled face of the young man outside, and suddenly understood. She couldn't help but sigh, and said bitterly, "It must be that he took advantage of his good skin and took advantage of it. I coaxed you with my sweet words and deceived you. Little girl, Aunt has a daughter about the same age as you, so when I see you, it's like seeing my daughter. Don't blame Aunt for talking too much. That young man is good looking and has a face that girls like. But no matter how good looking he is, you can't be with a criminal." Chiao Mianmian was confused again and had no idea what the aunt was talking about. She said that Moyesi committed a crime. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 535. Chapter 535, What should I do if it's really funny? Is it possible that this aunt knows Moyesi? Chiao Mianmian was curious, so she asked, "Auntie, do you know him?" "I don't know him," Auntie said angrily, "but he is definitely not a good person." Chiao Mianmian. "Auntie, why do you think he is not a good person?" "Why? Of course it's because he doesn't even let him go underage." The aunt looked at the young and beautiful face of the girl in front of her, thinking about her daughter who was still in high school, and said angrily, "You are not an adult yet, and he still refuses to take contraceptive measures and asks you to come here to buy emergency contraceptive pills. No matter how good looking he is, you should break up with him immediately. You should break up with him at your age. The most important thing is, don't go astray." Auntie couldn't control her volume when she got emotional. Moyesi, who had been paying attention to the two people's movements, heard the aunt's words clearly. Out of sight of Chiao Mianmian, the man's face darkened instantly. Asterisk. Leave the pharmacy. Chiao Mianmian raised her head and quietly glanced at the man next to her, whose face was still smelly and his whole body exuded low pressure. She actually wanted to laugh a little bit. But he didn't dare to laugh. If she laughs again, she will stab someone in the heart. But what should I do if it's really funny? She could hardly bear it any longer. She returned to the car holding back her laughter. After getting in the car, the man no longer hugged her as he had done before. He looked out the car window silently, his thin lips pressed tightly together, and his face was gloomy. Uncle Lee saw the scene in the rearview mirror and thought the two had quarreled. He also felt strange that the young master and young lady were fine when they got off the bus. "Why did we have a quarrel when we came back?" But he saw that the young lady was smiling, and it didn't look like she was having a quarrel. Alas, he is old. I can't understand how young people today fall in love. 10 minutes later. Arrived at the back door of Yunchinj Film Academy. Chiao Mianmian glanced at the dark-faced and silent man beside her, reached for her bag, coughed lightly and said, "Mo yesi, I'm getting out of the car." The man next to her finally reacted and turned to look at her. The two looked at each other for a moment. He pursed his lips, nodded and said, "Well, come to the company to see me after your leave, and we will have dinner together in the evening." "Good." Chiao Mian stretched out her hand to open the car door, and was about to get out of the car. After thinking about it, she turned around and came closer to his handsome face. Under his slightly surprised gaze, her soft lips lightly pressed on one side of his face. "Goodbye kiss, I really have to go, see you later." She blushed and waved her hand, and while he was stunned, she jumped out of the car. After getting off the bus, she stood on the side of the road and waved to him again, then turned and walked into the school gate. Mo Yesi, however, remained motionless in the same position he was kissed by her just now. Uncle Lee waited for him for a while, but before he could say anything, he couldn't help but ask, "Master, are you going back to the company now?" Mo Yesi came back to his senses and looked at the petite figure who was gradually walking away from the car window. A trace of hesitation flashed in his deep eyes, and then he asked with a somewhat unnatural expression, "Uncle Lee, let me ask you a question. You answer truthfully." "Master, please speak." Mo Yesi pursed his lips, took a deep breath, and asked, "How old do you think the young lady is when you see her for the first time?" Uncle Lee was stunned for a moment, as if he didn't guess that this was what he was asking about, but he quickly replied, "The young lady looks young. I thought she was still in high school." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 536. Chapter 536. She doesn't like you, who does she like? They were also shocked, thinking that their young master had found a minor. After hearing this, Mo Yesi pursed his lips and remained silent for a while. "Do I look much older than the young lady? Do I look very old?" Uncle Lee's astonished expression was reflected in the rearview mirror. "Master, you are still so young, how can you look old? If you look old, what do you want us old men over 50 to say?" But Mo Yesi squinted his eyes and clenched his fists. "She looks much younger than me. Uncle Lee, do you think she thinks I am older and not from the same generation as her?" Uncle Lee. "Master, why do you think so? You have such excellent conditions, and I don't know how many famous ladies have fallen in love with you even if you are several years older than the young lady. This age gap is not a problem at all. The young master's other advantages are enough to make up for this gap." "Is that so?" Mo Yesi was not as confident as usual and had self-doubt. "Does she really not mind? Does she think that I am too dull and my life is too monotonous, so being with me will be boring? She is his first woman. It was also the person he fell in love with for the first time. Unlike Yan Shaoqing and others, he has enough experience in love to know how to please a girl. Even their first date was created by him on Baidu. Will she be dissatisfied with a man like him who has no experience in love, doesn't know how to make her happy, and is 6 years older than her? Young master, you are worrying too much. You are the one among thousands of people. The young lady must like you, and there is no man around her who can compare with you. This is the first time Uncle Lee has seen his home." The young master looked so unsure of himself, which made him both surprised and emotional. This is not like the young master he knew. When did the young master become so unsure of himself? "Do you think she likes me?" Mo Yesi still had unconfidence in his eyes. "Uncle Lee, are you comforting me? Does Chiao Mian like him?" Mo Yesi didn't feel it. "She definitely doesn't hate him, but she likes him, at least so far, he hasn't felt it." "Yes, young master," Uncle Lee said with certainty, "the young madam must like you." The young master is so good and is so kind to her, so there is no reason for the young madam not to like you. Young master, in fact, you can be more confident. What do you have to worry about? You are better than any man around a young lady. Who does she like if she doesn't like you? Uncle Lee dared to say that it would be difficult to find another man with better conditions than his young master. His young master is truly a proud man of heaven. God's favorite. In terms of net worth, appearance, and personal ability, few people of the same age can compare with him. The hairy boys around a young lady who haven't even grown all their hair are even worse. If he were a young master, he would have nothing to worry about. He wants to grow up like a young master, and he has to walk sideways. However, this is what he will do for the rest of his life. There is no hope. I can only wait for the next life to see if I have such good luck. Is that so? Uncle Lee's words made Moyesi fall into deep thought. Even though Uncle Lee said it clearly, he also understood many truths. But he has absolute control and confidence in everything, but Jiao Mian makes him feel powerless. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 537. Chapter 537. The young lady will be spoiled by you. He can control her person, but he cannot control her heart. Who can control the human heart? Master, that's the case, don't worry anymore. Uncle Lee felt that his young master's worry about gains and losses was a bit pitiful. What's more, the young lady has married you, she is your woman now, your wife. What else do you have to worry about? Moyesi pursed his lips, lowered his eyes and was silent for a moment, then nodded and said, "You are right, I have nothing to worry about. She is my woman, now, in the future, and forever. In short, no matter whether she likes him or not, he can't let her go. In this life, she, Chiao Mian, can only be his Moyesi's woman." Hearing what he said, Uncle Lee finally felt a little more at ease, and a smile appeared on his face. "Young master, in fact, if you really have any concerns, you can make the relationship between you and the young madam public. In this way, no one will dare to take the young lady's attention again. Who has the courage to covet the wife of the CEO of MO Company? Those who dare to covet it may think that they have lived too long. She doesn't want to go public. Moyesi is a person who hides his thoughts very deeply. It won't be known easily. But Uncle Lee is not an outsider to him. Uncle Lee has been working in the Mo family for more than 20 years. He is nominally his driver, but Moyesi treats him as an elder. So in front of Uncle Lee, he didn't hide his thoughts and said it directly. She feels that she is still young and doesn't want people to know that she got married so early. And if she wants to develop her career, her married status, it will affect her. I don't want to force her to go public, which will make her unhappy. Although the entertainment industry now does not strictly prohibit artists from falling in love as it did in the past, and fans are much more accepting of artists falling in love and getting married, this is also based on certain achievements. Even before he could get into the third-tier class, he announced that he was married. The road ahead will be more difficult. Since Moyesi had considered these things, he would not think of going public with her now. She wants to develop her career, and he will help her develop her career well. If she doesn't want to make it public now, then she won't make it public. These are not very important. As long as she is willing to stay with him. This is the only thing he wants from her. Uncle Lee was silent for a while and could only sigh. "Master, you dote on the young lady too much. If you rely on her for everything, the young lady will be spoiled by you in the future. She is my wife. If I don't pamper her, who should I pamper?" Moyesi curled his lower lip, a hint of tenderness flashed in his eyes. "She is still young, only half a child. I am so much older than her. It's okay to give her some time." Uncle Lee. "Okay, master, as long as you are happy. She is your wife anyway, you can dote on her as much as you want. Go back to the company. Mo Yesi waited until Chiao Mian was completely out of sight before looking away from the car window. Yes, master. Uncle Lee immediately started the car and drove into the traffic in the middle of the street. After driving for a few minutes, Mo Yesi casually glanced out of the car window. When he saw the drugstore he had just visited not long ago, the man's expressionless and handsome face was instantly covered with a layer of gloom, and he couldn't control himself. To release cold air. He recalled what his aunt had said in his ears. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 538. Chapter 538. In fact, he minded very much. He thought it was extremely ridiculous. That middle-aged aunt with eye problems actually thought he was some kind of pervert and liar who abducted underage girls, and even persuaded Chiao Mian to break up with him, saying that he was not a good person. If he hadn't had the habit of hitting women, and the other party was so many years older than him, and she also had good intentions, he will definitely beat someone up. Even Uncle Lee, who was sitting in the front row, felt the low pressure released by Mo Yesi. He raised his eyes and glanced in the rearview mirror, and saw Mo Yesi's gloomy expression as if someone had offended him severely, and he was curious about who had offended his young master again. This journey was so uncertain that even he was afraid. Mo Yesi stared at the pharmacy for a while. Although he didn't want to pay attention to it, the aunt's words were like a curse, echoing in his ears over and over again, making him unable to really don't mind at all. In fact, he minded very much. Does he really look much older than Chiao Mian? The man clenched his cell phone and struggled for a long time. Until Uncle Lee drove the car into the Moe's underground parking lot and was about to get out of the car, he finally sent a text message. A text message sent to Ren. Text message content: tell my image design team that future clothes should not be designed to be too mature and old-fashioned, but should be as youthful as possible. It's the kind of style that makes you look younger by wearing it, you know what I mean? After retracting his text message, Ren quickly replied, Master, are you sure this is what you want to wear? Mo Yesi frowned, of course. I didn't know if Ren was doing something. This time, he came back after a while, Master, are you busy now? Can I call you to confirm? Mo Yesi? Ryan, I want to make sure it's you who sent the text message. Mo Yesi. Asterisk. After Chiao Mian returned to school, she was quickly approved for leave, and the principal personally approved it for her. The principal's attitude was so polite that he was not like a principal. He was even a little respectful. Not only did he pour water for Chiao Mian himself, but he also sent her to the door when Chiao Mian asked for leave and left. Chiao Mian naturally knew why. When she knew that Mo Yesi could change the class time of her professional class with just a phone call, she knew that Mo Yesi's scope of power was greater than she imagined. The principal was so polite to her, so Mo Yesi must have said hello in advance. She can enjoy such treatment and services. In the past, it would have been so easy for her to ask for leave. The matter of approving leave will not be done by the principal himself. After taking leave, Chiao Mian saw that it was still early, so she called Zhang Luli. The two met outside the library. Zhang Luli already knew that Chiao Mian was going to go filming in 3 days, and that she would be away for several months. When he saw her, he reached out and hugged her, and said reluctantly, Baby, starting from today, I will have to stay alone in the empty house for several months. Oh, I really can't bear to let you go. Chiao Mian smiled and hugged her, it's not like we've never been separated before. Why are you suddenly reluctant to leave me now? That's different. Zhang Luli sighed softly, we were not in school at that time. But now that you leave, there will be no one to accompany me to class, eat together, and skip classes together for a long time. Went shopping together, and did many, many things together. Completed update today. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 539. Chapter 539. Chapter 539. She probably understood what was going on. I won't be used to it. The filming base is not far from Yuncheng. You can come and visit the studio. Jiao Mian said generously, come over and I'll reimburse you for your air ticket, including food, accommodation, and sleeping with you. How about that? This is what you said. Zhang Luli was not polite to her at all. He immediately agreed and said with a smile, okay, then I won't be polite. Anyway, you are a kid with a monthly allowance of millions. Rich woman, you don't know how to spend all your pocket money, so let me, your good sister, help you spend some. Oh, baby, if I were him, I wouldn't be able to restrain myself, Zhang Luli said with emotion as he felt the soft body in his arms. Her baby's body is really excellent. Hold in my arms, it's cool, soft, and fragrant, not to mention how comfortable it is. The so-called ice muscle and jade bone is probably like this. Especially, her baby is skinny, but her chest is very plump. It would be difficult for any man to control himself when faced with a stunning beauty like her baby. Unless he is gay, he is not interested in women. Ahem, cough, cough. Jiao Mian suddenly coughed violently, until her face turned red and her neck was thick. She stretched out her hand to push Zhang Luli away, and looked up at her with eyes that were red from coughing. You, how are you? She doesn't seem to have told Zhang Luli about this, right? How do I know? Zhang Luli looked at her reaction and said inexplicably, didn't you tell me? Jiao Mian's eyes widened, and she had a baffled and confused expression on her face. She couldn't even care about her shyness. I didn't tell you. If you didn't tell me, who was that? Zhang Luli took out his mobile phone, opened WeChat, and said, you sent me a WeChat message 2 hours ago. The person I am chatting with is you, that's right. Isn't this your WeChat ID? Zhang Luli opened the chat history and waved it in front of her eyes. Don't tell me that you were drunk at the time and don't remember what you did. Even if you really don't remember, I already know everything you need to know. Don't even think about denying it. Tisk, baby, I really can't tell. Jiao Mian glanced at the two people's WeChat chat interface one by one, her face turning red inch by inch. She thought she probably understood what was going on. These WeChat contents were definitely not sent to Zhang Luli by her. Moreover, there is no chat record with Zhang Luli in her own WeChat account. So, there is only one possibility. She was asleep at the time, and it was Mo Yesi who was chatting with Zhang Luli on her mobile phone. Jiao Mian never thought that Mo Yesi would do such a thing. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 540. Chapter 540, Get Out of Here. He really cares about the morning. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done such a childish thing while she was asleep. Men really care. Lolo, I didn't send this to you. Such shameful words. She firmly refused to admit that it was her. It's not you. Zhang Luli was stunned for a moment, then blinked and said, but. Just a few seconds later, Zhang Luli suddenly opened his eyes wide, showing an expression of realization and shock. You don't want to say that this is a male god? Ye Jiao Mian nodded, that's him. Zhang Luli. So, he saw what I said to you before. Probably. Holy shit, Zhang Luli almost jumped up, stretched out his hands to scratch his hair, and the next second he was crying, it's so miserable, I'm finished. If the male sees those words, he will definitely want to strangle me to death. Baby, do you think the male will be angry? After all, what man doesn't mind what others say about him? Especially for a man as outstanding as her boyfriend, he would definitely be more concerned. Chiao Mian looked helpless, shook her head, and said honestly, I don't know either. But I don't think he is angry with you. No, Zhang Luli grabbed her hand, eager to confirm, so, the male will still look out for your face and continue to feed me from time to time, right? You won't be upset about this, right? Probably. Baby, you must help me more, but you must not let the male have any problem with me. Chiao Mian, me? How can I help you? Zhang Luli looked at her earnestly and said seriously, from now on, you should accompany your male several times a day to strengthen his confidence. He will not care about my words. Chiao Mian, Zhang Luli, get out of here. Asterisk. Zhang Luli had classes in the afternoon, and Chiao Mian stayed at school until she left before going to class. Before getting into the taxi, Chiao Mian sent a text message to Mo Yesi, I have asked for leave and will go to the company to find you now. Mo Yesi replied quickly, just wait, I'll ask Uncle Lee to pick you up. Chiao Mian gave the driver the address, and then replied, no, I'm already in the taxi. It only takes 10 minutes to get here, so there is no need to go to such trouble. Mo Yesi didn't insist and replied, okay, then I'll ask Wei Zheng to wait for you in the lobby. I may be a little busy in the afternoon. I still have 2 meetings, so I can't accompany you. When you arrive, go to my office and wait for me. Chiao Mian replied obediently, yes, I know. Mo Yesi, if there is anything you want to eat, I will have it prepared in advance. Fruit. Cake. Ice cream. There are no snacks for you in the office now. In fact, they are all very ordinary chat conversations. But Chiao Mian just felt very sweet in her heart. Probably, it's the sweet feeling that the other person has even considered the little things for you, making you feel that you are cared about. Have you truly cared about someone? It is always reflected in small things. The smaller things are, the more clearly they can be felt. She pursed her lips and smiled. After thinking about it, she clicked on the voicemail and sent him a voice message, no need to prepare it for me. I will go to the cake shop to buy it myself later. I know there is a cake shop with particularly delicious cakes. Do you want to eat them? I will bring you one. End of this chapter.